Conservative politicians in Canada have been complaining that they get unfairly compared to US MAGA Republicans. And then they go and do something like this. I'm Steve Sandford, you're watching Dominion Report. Recently, in his maiden speech in the House of Commons, Conservative MP Matt Strauss said about COVID mandates that, I quote, "The zenith of all this top-down control came during the pandemic. The members opposite went full communist." By members opposite, he means the Liberal Party. He continued his COVID mandate rant. They locked Canadians down in their homes, ruined weddings, funerals, Easters, proms, Christmases, closed the borders, kept mothers from children and brothers from sisters. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. I really want to get to the communist comment because that's actually my main beef with all of this. But first, we're going to have to talk about COVID mandates for a moment. Now, somebody needs to hand Matt Strauss a calendar because it's now 2025 and the COVID pandemic has basically been over for about 3 years now. Let's talk about learning a lesson. The Conservative Party of Canada just lost an election, and one of the big reasons is that they were unable to pivot their message after Justin Trudeau resigned. So rolling out COVID mandate grievances from the 2022 filing cabinet in the far back corner, that kind of demonstrates that they really haven't learned anything from this. Now, is there a legitimate debate to be had regarding how Canada handled COVID? I mean, of course there is, or there was. It's already been had many times over. But I guess we're having it again. And if we're going to rehash this debate, let's not forget that we're doing it with the benefit of hindsight. We now know what COVID is like. When COVID hit the world, nobody knew how dangerous it was or wasn't going to be. And in real life and death scenarios, it's usually better to err on the side of caution, just saying. And let's acknowledge that primarily COVID mandates were issued by provincial and territorial governments, because that's who manages health issues in Canada. And in March of 2020, over half of those were Conservative governments. And for the benefit of those who still suggest that our mandates were draconian, I want to share some statistics comparing us to our neighbors of the South, who most certainly had fewer mandates than we did. According to the website Statistica, Canada has experienced to date 1.1 COVID deaths per 1,000 members of the population. In the United States, the death rate has been 3.1 per 1,000. That's right, our mandates have literally saved lives. The United States, by having fewer and weaker mandates, experienced almost 3 times as many COVID deaths per capita. Another way to look at those numbers, relative to the US per capita rate, we saved about 85,000 Canadian lives. And that's more than the entire population of Sarnia, Ontario. So let me ask you this question, going back to 2020 or 2021. Would you choose to go to that barbecue, to go to that concert or that hockey game, if you knew that by allowing that to happen, it would kill every single person in Sarnia? Sorry, Sarnia, not trying to pick on you. Okay, so with that old and somewhat tired debate out of the way, let's get back to what Matt Strauss said. The members opposite went full communism. I suggested before that someone should get Matt Strauss a calendar. I would add to that request also a dictionary. Communism is not a system of health management. Communism is not by itself a form of oppression, even if they often do go hand in hand. It's not even really a system of government so much as it is a system of economics and government intertwined. Communism, by definition, is an economic and political ideology where the government owns the major resources in a society, including all property, all manufacturing, all agriculture, all banking, and all business entities. Accordingly, all of the workers are employed by the state. That is what communism is. Labeling pandemic mandates as communism is like me telling you that my dog's breed is BMW. They're not even in the same category. It just makes no sense. Surely, someone in the Conservative Party of Canada is assigned to vet the speeches of the newbie members of Parliament. These people know the definition of communism. At least I hope they do. If they don't, they're colossally ignorant and uneducated, which I guess would tell us something because it's literally their job to know, but we sort of need to assume that they do know. And since they know, that means they allowed the use of this term on purpose. So why would they do that? They know that many Canadians know how ridiculous it is. But they also know that for some Canadians, communism is just a boogeyman catch-all term for bad government. They actually probably mean to say authoritarian. COVID mandates stopped way short of actual authoritarianism. And if you watch Strauss's whole speech, authoritarian wouldn't have tied into what he was saying about his grandfather living in a communist country when he was leading up to that particular comment in his speech. Now, it seems to me like this was said for the sole purpose of capturing a short soundbite video to distribute within right-wing media silos to score likes and clicks on social media. And to confirm this, I've done the dirty work for you. I went into the right-wing media silos, and sure enough, there they were. My advice is don't go there, and especially don't read the comments. Now, this is a really dangerous path to go down. Creating messages for specific slices of the population only that mislabel anyone not inside that media silo as bad communist types is a purposeful attempt to divide Canadians for political benefit. This is tremendously damaging to our democracy. And further, creating messages for a limited portion of the citizenry is only a few steps away from a government that creates policy for a limited portion of the citizenry and to the exclusion of everybody else. And this, my friends, is the definition of populism. I've already made a video on the dangers of populism, and I'll put a link into the comments below. We need to protect our democracy from this type of destructive behavior. We can see just to our south what kind of government and what kind of country these types of things can lead to. What we need to do is call out these ridiculous statements, and ideally we need to replace the people who would say and do these things. And sure, for many people that will mean voting Liberal or NDP if you live in the Kitchener area riding that Strauss currently holds. But if you're a Conservative in that riding, you can help too. In fact, you can actually help more. The easiest thing, the first thing, is to write a letter to your representative, to Matt Strauss, objecting to his words. You're welcome, of course, to include a link to this video if you think that will help you. And Matt Strauss, if you are now watching this video, I would happily have you on as a guest. Now, a letter is one thing. A better option is to find another Conservative candidate, a better one, and run that person against Matt Strauss for the party's nomination before the next election. Heck, you could run yourself. That's how democracy is supposed to work. You vote for the person that you think is best, and if nobody is any good, then you're supposed to throw your own hat in the ring. To continue to be a healthy democracy, Canada needs a strong and trustworthy Conservative Party, and it needs educated and engaged Conservative voters, and I'm calling on all Conservatives to weed out this behavior. And before the comment section goes crazy and calls me a shill, I will add that if, and more likely when, a Liberal MP says or does anything similar, I will call them out too. And I will say the exact same things And I will say the same thing about liberal voters who champion that kind of divisive behavior. In fact, if you hear about anything like that, or have heard about anything from the liberal side, or from any side, put it into the comments, and perhaps I can do a video on that as well. And if you want to see that video when I make it, because liberals are certainly not perfect, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And in the meantime, stay calm, stay strong, and elbows up.